so glad to see everyone. It is 10:05, and we'd officially like to bring the meeting to order. So this meeting is called to order at 10:05 a.m. And good morning. We are the New York State Community Commission for Reparations Remedies, and this is a business meeting. And we apologize to all of those who either traveled here last night, like myself, flew in, or you came to the meeting last night and you found out that it was canceled. Unfortunately, while we were here, 15 minutes, good morning, 15 minutes before we were about to begin, we learned that the Brooklyn Downtown Library was closing due to inclement weather. And unfortunately, there was nothing that we could do, and so we closed. And that was the only reason why the meeting was canceled yesterday. If we could have packed up and done it outside, we would have done it, but obviously we couldn't do it, and so there was no other place for us to go, and so the meeting was canceled. So we apologize for those who traveled from wherever you came from. We thank you for your support, and we look forward to continuing to have our meeting. So this is the business meeting, and we'll begin with the secretary just establishing that we do have a quorum.
Madam Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Madam Secretary, we appreciate you establishing that a quorum is in order. We'll begin with the approval of the minutes for the April 10th meeting.
I'll make a motion to approve.
I second the motion.
A motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries. The minutes are accepted. Thank you very much. I want to begin next with some key updates, and I'm just looking for.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
Linda Brown Robinson.
Yes.
As a point of reference, when we asked for those abstaining should be included in the vote.
I apologize. I'll go back. So can we go back and do that again so that we can make sure? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Any abstaining? With that, the motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Give me 1 second just to grab, because I wanted to get those commissioner updates. Sorry, we have so many notes here, and we are excited to begin. We have some hiring updates, and I'm looking forward to the work that the commission continues to do with hiring. Most recently, we finalized our hire for our policy analyst and our historian. That information should be posted on our website. You can visit our website at ny.gov/reparations to learn more about the hiring for our positions. We've also hired for a administrative assistant. That administrative assistant will begin with us beginning next week. Just wanted to share that. I'm sorry.
And Madam Chair, those
Yes.
individuals are contractors.
They are
right?
contractors. Thank you for stating that, because the commission has not hired any direct staff. We partner with the Office of General Services, and through that, there is an RFP process. There is a competitive process. That process requires us to post that for a certain number of days, and those postings are on our website. You can go to our website to learn more about that. Any questions? With no questions, I am going to move to the summary of the facilitated small group sessions. So I want to give commissioners, I apologize, an opportunity to look through that. You should have received that. There's a lot in your packet, so I want to just slow down for a second because I lost my notes. And so I want to slow down and make sure that we are good. But there is, in your packet, you will see that there is a summary for commissioners to review of the facilitated meetings. And for the public, the commissioners had several small group meetings to understand how we would, we said to the community that we would come back with a definition for reparations. We went through a series of small group meetings to understand what our definitions would be. And so we established that through all those small group meetings that the commission would adopt the UN framework for reparations. So I want to pause and make room for conversation about that, and if anyone has any questions.
May I, this is Jennifer Jones-Alston, Commissioner. Point of clarification. With respect to making room for comment, is it comment upon the UN framework or the summary provided of the conversations had?
We have here in the resolution, it details what we're adopting. So if you go to that resolution draft, it speaks to, but the summary was for all of our commissioners to review what happened in those meetings.
Okay. So I just want for the record to make sure that it is stated that the summary, I do not find wholly factual,
Okay.
Particularly concerning the section concerning compensation. In the conversation that I was a part of, it was not the case where there was this, like, commissioners fully supporting direct payments as a form of reparations and compensation. We talked a lot about, let me say it differently. The way that this paragraph reads, it's as though there was less emphasis, very little consideration given to how do you engage in the work of community rebuilding and repair. This reads as though this was like, that there was a greater emphasis upon direct payments as the form of reparations. That was not a conversation that I was a part of. That is not the conversation that occurred in the meeting in which I participated.
Okay.
There was a great consideration given to how do you ensure that as part of reparations, we are looking at investments in community to help rebuild and restore.
I would agree. I was in the same small group meeting as Jen, so I would definitely agree with that.
Chair?
Madam Chief,
Anyone else?
perhaps we should consider this as a draft summary and not policy. And with draft summary, perhaps we should also allow for the possibility of amendments and addendum, so that it seems to me that part of the concern may be that this becomes policy of the committee, and perhaps the purpose of those sessions were to get sentiment and begin conversation, so this could be taken as a draft summary.
I do want to state for the record that this summary are the notes of the consultant. The summary is not reflective of what the chair has written on behalf of the commission or written on behalf of the commission. It is a summary from the consultant. So we should acknowledge that maybe that our conversation also includes going back to the consultant and sharing that we don't agree with these statements in this.
Well, Commissioner Terrence Reed, I
Maybe we
just
should
wanted
do
to
some
weigh,
introductions. I apologize.
I just wanted to weigh in. I agree with Jennifer and Derek, because the group that I was with, we talked about other means of compensation, property, policy, payment, but not direct payments, leverage payments, whether it's, through some kind of institutional entity that reinvests. So there are lots of options for reparations, and I think I agree that this should not be adopted at this moment as policy of the commission. It's fine that it's a draft report from someone we hired. That's fine. But I'd like to go through it and add, some commentary of my own.
I'll just add, just appreciating what you have shared, Commissioner Tarrant Reed, as well as all the commissioners, Harkins and Hamilton. It needs to be stated for the record that this requires a thorough review and a rewrite. It does not reflect the views of the commission. And I have just, we need to look at the other paragraphs, because this is written in a way that is, I'm just going to say it, it is skewed, and it's presenting, it's written as the summary of conversations had with commissioners. So it is presenting a voice that is not an accurate voice, and that gives me concern. So yes, we can call it a draft, but it is not a factual, report of the conversations had, and I take issue with that.
And this, I appreciate that, and so we'll document that. And I just want to say that this is not a report to the community or report. This is from the consultant to us for review. So we'll call it a draft. And
So, Madam Chair, the one.
Commissioner,
Yes,
ahead.
Linda
Or
Brown
ch-
Robinson,
sorry.
Commissioner. Go ahead,
Chair,
Commissioner. Go ahead, Commissioner Brown Robinson.
I would suggest that we go back and revisit it and read the document in its entirety, and then document all the complaints, the issues and concerns, and then us establish a date that we could come back and revisit and then vote on that again, if need be.
So this document is doing exactly what we wanted to have happen, us have a conversation, because we could not have a conversation with the 9 of us together to say, does this match, does this reflect what we all said in those meetings? So I would agree with you, Commissioner Brown Robinson, that we review it and then provide some feedbacks, and we can come back here and have some conversation about that.
So
So
to
Are we
that
setting
end,
a date and a timeline for that? It should be
Absolutely.
just open-ended.
No, let's set, what works for everybody else? Does a 2-week time frame work for everyone?
Yeah.
Is that something that we can review?
Yes.
I would just ask then that for the record, we not call it a draft, because that gives it some official status. This is a consultant's report
A
to us.
consultant's report to us.
And we are not, you appreciate what I'm saying?
I
I
agree.
just don't even want it to be as though it has
That
some official
right, right.
role.
To me, the key point is, it's not policy. The key point is that this is not policy. This is, as you suggested, Commissioner, a mechanism by which you can get us talking and thinking about some ideas by which ultimately we're going to have to come to conclusion on.
And the other piece too is that this is emailed. And so if email is not a good way to shoot, there's a lot of documents here. And I want to be clear that this was emailed. So there's a lot of information. So the best way is that when we come together, we can look at it. And so I want to go back to Commissioner Brown Robinson's point. Do we have a timeline? What works for everyone to review it? So because publicly, we will have to come back and have this conversation, because we could not go back. We don't have time to go back into small groups. For those that are listening, it took us several months to make that happen. And we're proud that we were able to begin that work, but it will be important for us to have a conversation about that in a public meeting, in a business meeting,
So I think 2 weeks is sufficient. I mean,
for everyone to review the document and provide some feedback.
yes.
Yes.
Okay.
So
2 weeks.
the other
So let
thing
me
I
put
want
a
to say,
date on
Chair, is I want to make sure that this body, as well as the public, understands that at least the session I was in, it was a fruitful type session. It was a productive session. It's just that these notes don't appear to match what was discussed in the session.
August 15th, if everyone could share their written feedback. Commissioners, can we get some agreement on that?
Yes.
Linda Brown Robinson, I concur.
Yes, River Daniel favors.
Anyone have any concerns with that timeline? Okay, August 15th.
And what is the mechanism? What are we doing?
We're going to email our feedback, and then I'm going to submit this back to the consultant and just say that this is where the commissioners had concerns, and have them share their draft report. Or we can just have in addition to that, we would have our next business meeting where we would have this as a topic for discussion. Because the only way, again, if we go back into those small groups, the same thing could possibly happen, that we'll have because all of us are not in the 4 groups. And so we have to have this conversation about what we believe reparations should look like.
Okay.
If we have different ideas, please present them.
Actually, Commissioner, Madam Chair, if I may, and I hope you can hear me, We are also in the review of some of the RFPs for additional members to join the team, and I believe they might also be due by that date. And I wondered if we might get a grace period of an additional few days beyond that, so that the commissioners who are also engaged in that process would have time to meaningfully review both sets of documents and materials.
What date are you suggesting? So we've said the 15th. Can everybody else present by the 15th, and then we'll have Commissioner Daniel Favors by the 22nd?
Why not just make it a month for everybody, unless
Okay.
we're, yep, okay.
So that will come back to September 1st?
If we need a month, good. I could have gone from Friday to the next Wednesday, if that could work as well, if we want a shorter time period, but I'm also able to do a month.
Is the first not a holiday?
Well, we could submit the documents. If everybody that can submit by the 15th would be great, and then Commissioner Daniel Favors. Or whoever. Whomever needs additional time, but at least by the 22nd, we would have everyone's information, and we can at least send that back to the consultant with our concerns. Is everyone in agreement there?
So what's our date?
The 22nd of August.
So I have one concern. And of course, in this particular moment, I'm centering only on the compensation paragraph, but I will dive more deeply into the remaining body of the work. It is such an inaccurate representation of the conversation had concerning compensation that it causes me angst concerning the integrity of the consultant. And so I'm just putting it out there, like people may disagree. But the conversation, at least with the commissioners that I was a part of, this is not a representation. And given that this particular issue is one that is one of the most, like hotly contested and like top of mind concerns when people talk about reparations, for me, I have some angst right now that I'm giving comments back to a consultant that had to have heard and taken notes of one type and presented the conversations differently. And so I'm not really certain at this particular point that handing it back to a consultant is the way that we come to some understanding of people's positions on this issue. Now, I may be I may be more anxious than I should be.
So with
But
that,
this is a very serious issue. And to have presented that the commissioners all felt a certain way and not a whole accurate representation is a real concern. Policy or no policy, we are relying upon a consultant to bring forth the voice of commissioners. And this is not, yeah.
So I don't know if there
Nothing
are other small groups that did focus on that, and that is what she's
that's what I was gonna say.
representing? I don't
we
know.
were not all there at those sessions. We were not all there, so I think that if we can move to that, we'll have some continued discussion about this. I think it's important that we share our feedback, whether it goes to the consultant or not. We need to make sure that we get the right information, and none of us were at all those 4 sessions, so we don't know, we know that's not true. I'm sorry, Commissioner Ron Daniels.
Yeah, apologies for being late. Typically, that's atypical for me, let me just say. But I think the key point was just made by the chair. There were a series of conversations, and none of us knows what will happen to each of those conversations. So I don't know if we can draw a conclusion about who said what where, because that's not reflected. But I do share Commissioner Austin Jones' point that to the degree that it suggests any particular frame of reference in relationship to vital issues, we should be cautious about that. But I also think that making it some kind of informal, I mean, certainly it's not an official document. No. And different groups spoke about different things, and some of them may not have even addressed some of the
Compensation.
issues that other groups discussed, even though it was generally supposed to be about a certain set of ideas. So I think that we should, whatever makes it informal and not official is what I think we should make clear.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniels. Just want to share, again, for those that are listening, this report I'm not even calling a report, this communication to the commission is not on behalf of the commission. And so I want to make sure that we all look at the document. We said we'd have it ready by the 22nd, provide our feedback to the document, and then we will come back in a public business meeting, and we will have some conversation about what is an accurate reflection of the commission and our thoughts and conversation on what reparations should look like. I see that Commissioner Daniel Favors has her hand raised, so I want to acknowledge her.
In light of the concerns raised by Commissioner Jones-Austin, query whether we should also give some time, either at this moment or at some point beyond the 22nd, where we are interrogating concerns that are being raised about what may be an inaccurate, let me say a disconnect between what the consultant is hearing and reflecting. It feels as though this goes beyond just a simple miscommunication of sorts, and I'm wondering if we are clear, and I may be the only one who does not have this information, and if so, I beg your grace. But are we satisfied with the way the consultant was vetted? Are we confident, and should we be interrogating as we're reviewing these documents? Should we be also interrogating the question as to whether or not this is a consultant with whom we wish to continue if at this early stage we're receiving a communication that is presenting such a level of tension around its contents?
I appreciate your concerns, Commissioner Daniel Favors. I just want to share that we had one group. We did not go through a full vetting process. We had one group of consultants. There was a commissioner that had concerns about that consultant. I worked with a consultant that we looked for a consultant. We found the consultant, and then that consultant did the sessions. We wanted someone that did not have any bias. We wanted someone that was based on strategic planning, and this consultant was based on strategic planning. And so that was the hope. And so that's what we thought we got, and we believe that we got that. I think that we just all were not in those sessions to make any assumption that the consultant was biased or not. And so I think it's going to be important for us to read the document and provide some feedback.
Thank you for that, but I'm sorry, just to make sure I heard you. Did you say they did not proceed through a full vetting process?
No, they did not.
How was that decision reached, if I may?
How was the decision reached? I made the decision to get a consultant because we had some concerns about the other consultant that came through the process through our executive director, and so we found another consultant that was just a strategic plan. So I'm not sure what the vetting process would be for that, as we've gotten consultants to complete our minutes for us, to help us. We went through the same process, no different.
So they did go through a process.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, they did.
Okay, they did.
They did.
Thank you.
Okay, but
Okay.
when I'm hearing vetting, I'm thinking that we're going through the evaluation process that we've done with RFPs. We did not do that full process.
This is Commissioner Brown Robinson.
Yes.
Sounds like the cart was before the horse, or the horse was before the cart kind of thing. In other words, to be kind or not so kind, backwards ass.
So what does that mean, Commissioner? And then we'll have.
It really means that was a poor way of doing it. I mean, if we're putting a lot of faith and hope in this person to do the job, and it doesn't appear now that they've done the job, I think we did that a little backwards. I think everybody we do business with needs to be fully vetted.
Absolutely.
Fully
And so
vetted.
we did that process. I want to be clear. We did that process. Did we have a full evaluation team as we would have with an RFP? We did not. And so if that's what we want to do, that will take us months to do. And so we communicated to the community that we would have a conversation, we would have a recommendation for the definition of reparations, and we would not have been able to do it in the time frame. Remember, we are contracting through, we partner with OGS, and the RFP process would take us months to do that.
And for the public, OGS is
Office of General Services, I
with
apologize.
New York State government.
If I may.
Commissioner, yes, Commissioner Derek Hamilton.
I echo a great deal of what Commissioner Daniels describes, and I would say that the purpose of this exercise was fulfilled, which is to get us started discussing and talking amongst small groups and developing ideas as we get to the difficult process of coming together as a commission to make decisions. The high stakes thing will be making that decision, and this was to incubate the conversation. So I'm grateful for the commissioner to start this process. And for the record, I question the integrity of the facilitator, and by no means. I think the person had a difficult task of gathering information from multiple groups, and at first glance, summarized to the best of their interpretation and ability, and I applaud the ability for us to be able to give feedback based on our own individual perceptions. But I would encourage us as a commission to move forward as we think about the bigger process and take this for what it was, which was an opportunity to begin conversation.
If I may just quickly, since I
Thank you,
began this
Commissioner Hamilton.
conversation, I do not disagree with what you're saying, Commissioner Hamilton, but I think we all have to appreciate that once something becomes public as we're now talking about it, it becomes part of the record. And if it is not an accurate reflection of what commissioners said, feel, believe, what their values are, how they are showing up, that does need to be brought forward, and there does need to be an honest recognition of that. I'm not at all dismissing that maybe she did her best, and she attempted to do, to reflect what was said, but it is not an accurate reflection. And if it is, I don't know where this now sits. It's a summary report. Is it now, even if we're not calling it policy, even if we're saying it's a draft, is it now part of a record? And if it is part of a record, which I would expect that it is,
It is not.
then it needs, no. The minute that you put a paper out and we begin discussing it, it becomes part of a record.
But it's not on behalf of the commission, so I just want to keep clarifying with the report. The report was what the consultant provided us on what they believe they heard.
Right,
And so
but
our-
that does have.
But it does not reflect, we're all saying, I just want to be clear, I apologize. I just want to be clear, we are all in agreement that we appreciate what the consultant has done, but we are not in agreement. So our task is to come back on the 22nd and respond back to what we believe, because we all weren't in those 4 sessions. And so what we believe it should be, and then it's still not public record because we have to come to some vote. And so we will have the conversation publicly about what we believe reparations is or should be. Because one of the things that we talked about for months is that we have not defined reparations as a commission. So we agreed that we would come back by August and have that, which we did. We met the goal that we said we would. And so now it's for us to make sure that we do that work publicly.
So I understand that, and I'm just going to say this, and then I will be quiet on this particular matter. Even though it is not our official document, it is foilable, it's part of the record because we've talked about it, and I just want it stated, and I want it in the minutes, that the summary report provided by the consultant that is purportedly a reflection of the conversations had with all commissioners is not a wholly accurate reflection. It is not an accurate document. That needs to be in the record because whether we vote on it or not, the fact that it has now been introduced, it is a document.
That's correct.
It is a part of the commission's records, and it is not an accurate reflection of the conversations had and of the opinions, thoughts, values, and beliefs presented by the commissioners, all the commissioners.
Duly noted, and so we will make sure that that is reflected in the minutes. Thank you, Commissioner Jones-Austin. I see Commissioner Daniel Favors has her hand up.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think we just also need to have some established protocol that does not allow for a hiring process of that sort. Prior to even what Commissioner Jones-Austin just shared for the record, the fact that this is a consultant, I presume being paid by the commission makes this an official engagement. And for that to have happened without proper vetting is problematic. And I think we need to make it clear that as far as I'm understanding, unless there is some provision that I'm not aware of, I do not know that it is appropriate to extend consulting capacity or hiring any form of formal engagement with the commission without going through that process. I recognize that it would take a long time. I recognize that we are, and as I said from the very first meeting, the way this was set up was intended to fail. But we see what happened as a result of taking that shortcut. And I think I'm just troubled by that. And we need to have, that to me feels like an unresolved issue in some way.
I want to clarify that it went through the proper vetting. So I just want to clarify for the record.
And OGS allowed it?
Absolutely. They don't allow us to do anything that's without proper vet. So I want to clarify for the record that it went through proper vetting.
Excuse me.
Yes, Commissioner
We're
Daniels.
spending an awful lot of time on this issue. And let me just say that nothing that I've heard in this report, there's an emphasis on it being public and a part of the record, and I can appreciate that, but I'm not terrified by that. So the public knows that we had some disagreements and there's some issues that were raised. I'm not terrified about that. But the other question I have to raise is, for it to be said that this is not an accurate representation, then I need to, maybe I was late, so therefore I missed it. If there were 4 or 5 separate groups, how do we determine what was said in those groups? And how do we know that because what I said in this group was not reflected, you would have to say that somehow what you said in your group is not reflected. If that's what's being said, then I can understand
That's
that.
what we're talking about.
Okay,
That
then
is the very thing we're
okay,
talking
all right,
about.
now I understand.
And it's the way that it is presented in the writing. That's what the concern is.
And
And it's
Well,
not so
no,
much.
that's not what I'm asking.
No.
I'm saying, Commissioner Austin, that you are saying, or others are saying, that you made statements in your group and ideas were presented that are not reflected in this summation.
We're saying it's not a wholly accurate representation. And I'm not disputing what others may have said or not have said. I'm just saying that if you're going to put something into the record, it has to wholly
But you did not answer my question, Commissioner
What
Austin.
is your question?
My
I'm sorry.
question is there something, or anyone here, because the only reason why this is a germane conversation is that someone came forward, and again, I apologize profusely for being late, that Dr. Ron Daniels said something
We did talk about that. We talked more about other types of compensation and reparations. We talked more about other forms, and it was not that the emphasis was on direct payments. Yes, so we did talk about that perhaps before you entered the room. I should let it be noted, my concern is not whether or not people know that we publicly disagree. It's simply a matter that when you put something on paper and it's in the record, you want to make sure that it is an accurate reflection of conversations had. That's my concern. I have no concern about people knowing whether I agree or disagree with other commissioners.
Well, that's the point I wanted to clarify, because otherwise, I mean, you wouldn't, somebody would have to say that there was a presentation people made and it's not reflected in the conversation itself.
That's what we talked about.
Because it's impossible for any of us to know what was said in all of the different groups.
So without us dragging this out anymore, we did agree that we need to review the document and spend that time with it. And I guess the vagueness, right? It could make one assume that when the first line under compensation says commissioner supported,
Right,
it could make it seem as if the whole body supported.
right.
But it also can be looked at as commissioners, some commissioners supporting. So I think it's time, I think we've discussed it a bunch.
That's right.
And I think it's time for us to move on to the next thing and do our due diligence by the 22nd of August and provide whatever feedback and comments and corrections that we feel are necessary.
I
And
appreciate.
excuse me,
Yes.
where are those comments going to go? I'm perfectly willing, as a secretary, to receive them.
So we will send the comments to Secretary Tarrant Reed.
Thank you.
by the 22nd. I just want to know the best way to communicate, because we did receive this. So if this is not something that we're able to review ahead of time, and so that we could have this feedback via email, and that we could have seen this, had some foresight about this, what's the best way for everyone to get this information? Because we did have the information. There was an opportunity for everyone to review. So help me understand the best way.
I guess I would ask the question of you, Chair, and I appreciate the question that you posed to us. Perhaps we're still not clear on how we do communicate about things of this nature. So if this is something that is being presented as part of the commission meeting, then, yes, I reviewed it in advance. I'm talking about it at this meeting because it's being presented as part of the meeting. So I would not think that I should be sharing comments before the meeting about something that is to be discussed in the meeting or presented in the meeting. So maybe perhaps some clarification about how we are to handle information provided to us that appears as though it's part of a meeting, because I think I'm coming to the meeting to actually talk about it.
Yeah, I would ask that if anything that we have concerns about, whether we agree or disagree or believe that it shouldn't be part of the agenda, that it's important for us to share that, so that we can make sure that the agenda and the documents, we're prepared to have some conversation about it, but we have an awareness. So I would, at least for me, if I could have that awareness, that would be helpful.
So Chair, for cover, I will like our parliamentarian
Yes.
to weigh in on that.
Yes.
If that is a topic that you cover, is that okay? Email discussion?
Yes, yes. I
Okay.
think the conversation we're having is, the question is, we're now in a public meeting. We're having a public conversation. That's perfectly legitimate. We're having a disagreement or questions about a consultant's analysis of one of the small sessions that were created, and we're expressing that, and the chair has offered an approach to go to the next step, and that's all in the context of being public and being transparent, which is one of our responsibilities, and we're doing that. So I think that.
So I'm sorry, and I'm sorry. I'm referring more to what Commissioner Jones Austin asked about, as far as, and what the chair said is, hey, if there's something, when they send the notes out for the next meeting, if there's something that we have comments about or disagreement about, is email dialogue between the group acceptable,
Yes.
as far as open meetings law and all that stuff?
Yes, I think the conversations that you have of any substance that you have requires 5 commissioners to be present, physically present, on a called meeting. And ways in which you've done that, and you now have an agenda that reflects part of what was happening between this meeting and the last meeting, those consultant reports.
So emails are fine to.
Sure.
Okay.
I do have to have a clarifying question. If someone is raising a concern that, concerning a document that will be presented publicly, and they wanted the commissioners, the full body of the commission, and the record to state a difference of thought and opinion, then you would not do that via email. You would not do that directly. I mean, just based on my experience.
The way that this would be recorded would be by a resolution that came out of a body of 5 people meeting, at least 5 people meeting in a called meeting. And that resolution has to have at least a 24-hour gestation period before it can be voted on, so that if we were to put a resolution out today, it would be considered at the next called meeting around an issue that is germane to the public, germane to the.
I think I'm saying
Thank you.
something differently,
Yeah,
but I don't want to.
Can we move
I'm
on?
saying something
I just
different.
want to clarify that we're going to move on. We've committed to having this done on the 22nd, and my hope is that everyone will send their concerns to Commissioner Tarrant Reed, our secretary, and we've been fine with emailing concerns before. So I want to make sure that we move on. Next, we're going to move on to the resolution of votes. And so I want to state that, I'm sorry, there is in here for consideration a resolution of the supermajority vote. And I'm sorry that this is not an accurate reflection of what I am proposing as chair. And so I'd like to strike that from the agenda. I sent a full email about that. And so my hope was that, as we understand, the General Construction Law, Section 41, says that for the commission to adopt rules or voting, we have to have the majority of the commission, which is 5 of 9. I am not asking for 6 of 9. I'm asking that we keep the 5 of 9. What I was proposing that I learned that we cannot do as a commission, I was proposing that when we are together as a commission and there is a quorum, that we can still advance the work of the commission by taking the majority of the vote of the members that were present. I learned that you cannot do that. And so any time that we have a vote, and I'm going to slow down
explain that
and
again.
explain it. Let me slow down and explain it. Any time that we have a vote on behalf of the commission, 5 members must be present to establish quorum. If all 5 members are present and we wanted to pass a resolution, let's say on adopting the reparations framework for the UN, all 5 commissioners would have to affirm that. If there were one commissioner that did not affirm that vote, we could not pass that resolution. I am not asking for a supermajority vote. That would make things even harder for us. So I'm asking to remove that. So I want to establish that any time this commission comes together, 5 is a quorum, but if we're voting on something and there not all 9 of us here, 5 of us have to affirm it. If there are 6 of us here, 5 of us has to affirm it. If there are 5 of us here, 5 of us must affirm it. If there's one change to that, we cannot advance that vote or recommend or resolution. Questions about that?
So that's nothing we have to adopt, that's just the rule.
That's the rule. So there in here says that there's a resolution for a supermajority vote.
Yeah.
I am not asking that.
Right.
When I was looking through support from OGS on this, I wanted to make sure that we could advance work if there were just 5 and we could vote by the majority that was there. That is not
Gotcha.
actual. So if we were to have a vote and there were 5 of us here and 3 of us said yes and 2 of us said no, we could not advance that vote.
Gotcha.
So help me to understand your rationale. I appreciate, well, I guess what I'm hearing is you want to make sure that it is not a simple, well, not even a simple majority, but let me say it differently. What I am concerned about, and I want you to help me address this concern, is that here we are, a body of 6, well, there are 2, but let's just say it's 6, and you're requiring 5 to move.
New York State is requiring 5.
That's what I'm asking.
Yes.
So
Yes.
New York State as a minimum.
Is requiring 5. I was asking, could we do it with 3, majority?
Got it. Okay, that's what I was unsure about.
State said,
Okay.
no, you cannot. So this
majority
is
of the
not a
body.
reflection of what I was asking
Understood.
for
Now
a
I'm
majority of
understanding.
the body, so
Okay.
that we can continue to advance the work. We cannot do that.
Fine.
So that's why I'm asking to strike that.
We have no choice.
We have no choice. Next, we wanted to adopt the amendment for the resolution. We wanted to just talk through, and I think if you haven't looked through that, let's look through that and see if we want to amend the public hearing code of conduct. If you hadn't had an opportunity to do that, because we do need to go into executive session, and I want to make sure that I am present for executive session. And so if you haven't had an opportunity to do that, we can do that, and then we can take our break and then go into executive session and then come back to the meeting. But we would have to have a vote for executive session to go into executive session. Yes. So, Madam Secretary?
Hi, I'd like to to advance a motion for a vote to go into executive session of the commission.
Is that now?
Linda Brown.
Point of order.
Yes.
Point of order. I had my hand raised. I just wanted
I'm
to
sorry.
inject a question before we moved into this portion. Madam Chair, there was also in your email with regards to the previously addressed item, a question about election of officers. Is that something that we will discuss at this time?
We can discuss that. And so anytime that we are electing officers, and if there are officers that are, have not received the majority vote, we would have to either take that vote again by ballot. So the only time we've had that is when we had our vote for vice chair. And so we did not have a majority vote. If you can recall, we were in Albany. There were 5 votes, and 3 in affirming the vice chair, 2 not affirming the vice chair. And so we were not in order there. So we would have to take that vote again by ballot. And if we took that vote by ballot, we could do it by the majority, and it's private ballot. You can do it by the majority of the ballots received, according to New York State law. So if we were to vote at another meeting or at this meeting for our vice chair, it would be by the majority of the individuals that were here.
So does that mean we're going to have are we now going to have to do a re-election for that position?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry, I was reading the note that came to me. I apologize, Commissioner Daniel Favors.
No worries at all, Madam Chair. Does that mean, in light of your previous statement, that we now have to have a new vote for the vice chair position?
I believe from what I've shared and what I learned that we were not in compliance, and we would need to vote, affirm that vote for our vice chair again.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
so when does that vote take place?
we can take it at another meeting or at this meeting. But I would suggest at another meeting when the Commissioner, Deborah Jenkins is present.
So essentially.
Madam Chair, you said that it was a vote to reconfirm the vice chair. That's different than another election for vice chair. Could you clarify, please?
So I think this would be the commission. We could reconfirm, if there's an agreement to reconfirm our vice chair, then we could do that here. But if there's going to be a change, I would suggest that we do that while our commissioner is here.
So I think the language is we would just have to have the election process.
So
Can you
is
speak
that-
up?
is that
We
what
should
you're
know.
asking? Is that?
Yeah, we wouldn't call it necessarily reconfirm or
Okay,
anything. It would just-
so
we
if
have to
we're
go-
doing
There's a new
another
election.
election, so let me just be clear, thank you, Commissioner Daniels Favors. If we're doing an election, then we have to have an election process. And so I would hope that we would want to do it with the commissioner there. Now, I did speak with Commissioner Jenkins. She does want to continue, and she would like to continue as the chair. Now, if we want to have an election, we can do that, but we would have to do that when all of us, well, majority of us are here. We have a quorum now. So that would be up to the commission.
And so that's in light of learning about New York State requirement for.
Quorum for
quorum.
votes,
Okay.
yes.
So, again, 2 points of clarification, and critically important for the record. At the meeting where Dr. Deborah Jenkins, Commissioner Jenkins, was elected vice chair, there were 2 other positions on which we took votes, treasurer and secretary. And so help us to appreciate for the record why those votes stand, but the vote of the vice chair does not stand.
So the only roles that the commission must have are of chair and vice chair. Those are what the law, public law requires of us. And so this is the vote that we must have. We decided to establish a executive committee, which is not required. So we would need to do that vote for the vice chair.
So I'm sorry, but I just wanted to jump in on this. Were the other 2 roles unanimous, though?
There was an abstention.
Yes.
I remember that. I don't remember
Okay.
the number of people. I mean, we may have gotten them by 5 or 6.
But if we got them by
I was just
5,
saying,
Then we're fine.
then we were fine. But again, the bill requires us to have a chair and vice chair. That's what we're required to vote on.
Okay, and then one
Chair
question,
Hawkins?
just if I may.
One
this is my
second,
second question, just
Commissioner Brown
Thank you.
Robinson.
one additional question concerning the length of service. And so when this commission was appointed, it was for a period of 1 year. And when elections were conducted, it was with this understanding that we were all serving for 1 year. The commission has now been extended by a period of, I guess, 18 months. I just want, and this is again, a point of clarification. If we were voting for a period of 1 year, do any of these positions just carry over automatically? Or is that something that we have to act on as well? The commission, I don't know, and
That's a
I'm
good
asking the
question.
question.
And so I guess my recommendation would be without us guessing or providing our own thoughts on it, go back to that same
OGS,
body,
yes.
OGS, that provided us with the information, and that, I guess that would be on our others, the executive board seats that we created, and the question of the term. And so I think that will solve all of that.
And
instead of us-
really, it's more just for purposes of making sure we're dotting all the
Yes.
i's and crossing the
Yes.
t's,
Yep.
right? If we were established for 1 year, people get elected for 1 year, we now have 18 months. Does the clock begin again?
Absolutely.
And it's good to have
Madam Chair, I think
clarification.
it would also be pertinent to examine not just the additional positions that were a part of the executive board, but is there language that actually supports the idea that the chair position and the vice chair position do not also require votes under those same circumstances? And if that's the case, I'm sure, surely we have the records that indicate who voted for what and what the numbers were for each position. So we could always refer back to that in the event there was question about that.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel Favors. I will do that. I just want to make room for Commissioner Brown Robinson.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Well, if we're under time constraints, my question is, when are we going to do that, and how do we, are we assured that we're still going to have a quorum or not have a quorum when that second vote is taken? My vote was my vote. I don't believe changing it, even though I don't quite remember what my vote was, but I mean, I respect that our vice chair is not here, but we have no assurance that the next time we come together, we're going to have the required quorum.
Chair, if I may. I think there are a number of questions that were presented that we have to check on, and so if we're going to take a vote and there are more or additional positions that need to be involved in that, we might as well just do it all at once. And so my recommendation would be for us to get clarification on the questions and the points that were brought up to make sure that we are doing this above board and in accordance with New York State law. And then as soon as we do that, then we could call for the vote at whatever
public
next meeting we have.
I'm fine with that, but do we have a special meeting?
Do you want to have a special, is that what we're asking?
I mean,
to have
that's
a-
the only way we can do it,
What does that require?
as I
of
see
us?
it.
So I need to find out what
Is that
is
meeting
required
and
of us
stuff
to
and
have
everything,
a special meeting, or if it's at the next business meeting. So either way, we would have to come back together. And so we would have to establish a
So
date.
who is our vice chair in the interim if we're not in compliance?
So we don't, absolutely, we don't have a vice chair.
And are we required to have a vice chair?
We are required to have a vice chair.
Well, then I don't know, we don't have a lot of options here.
We're not in compliance.
We're not in
We
compliance.
have no options here, to be
I mean, we
clear.
always have options.
Well, no, I don't think
I
we
mean,
do.
so
I respectfully
So
say.
is it that, I just want to hear this, is it that we're asking to make a motion to, I'm sorry, to elect, to have the election for vice chair right now? Is that what you're asking, Commissioner Brown Robinson?
I'm just stating what needs to be discussed. I don't have a position either way. The longer we, delay this, the longer we're not in compliance.
Is this what the body is asking right now, to have a vote for the vice chair at this moment?
I'm not.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's a matter of what the body is asking. It's more a matter of what is lawfully permitted.
So we have,
And
we've
if we
had a
would-
meeting without a vice chair. Remember, we did not, we started with the chair, we were required to do that. And then we did not, that first meeting, we did not have a vice chair. The next meeting, we came together in August, that was in July. So technically, if that was the case, we were out of compliance for a month. And so we are just learning this, we're bringing this to the body. We can say that we can come together in a month so that I can gather all the appropriate information and learn if we need to do all the elections or one election again. And then we'll make sure that we go from there. I'm sorry,
Just
Commissioner
one-
Daniels.
I'm sorry.
Commissioner Daniels was waiting.
Yeah, let me just say that I just feel that our current co-chair is not here, and I feel extraordinarily uncomfortable taking a vote on that position
I
without
agree.
I concur with you,
Yeah, but
Commissioner.
can I just finish on that point? And so it seems to me that I would think there is a way to get around any need for an immediate vote, a special meeting or whatever might be required. I also just, and I may have missed this, do we have now a regular scheduled date for our business meetings?
We do not.
And I just want to register that it makes it, when we start talking about a quorum, it makes it much easier, and I think we discussed this earlier, at least I think I raised it and others, if we in fact establish the first Monday, the third Tuesday, we come to a consensus on what date works for the majority of us, because then we will clear that on our calendar, and it makes it much easier to have a quorum. So I just want to register that as a concern as well.
I agree, and I will commit to making sure that our next meetings, we schedule through July, and so we need to schedule the next series of meetings for the next year.
Okay, so I'm sorry. We need to progress, we need to move forward, but what do you mean by not in compliance? Because now I'm struggling with, and it's just the lawyer in me. Like, if we're not in compliance, does that mean that the business that we're conducting right now is not like official? Like, what does it mean to not be in compliance? And I think this speaks to what Commissioner Brown Robinson was saying. Like, if everything we're doing here for the next 2 hours is just, like, we're just going through a motion, we're going through an exercise, but it is not official because we're not in compliance, we need to move forward. I agree with you. You don't want to do something without the individual being here. But what is not compliant mean?
OGS did not say we were not in compliance. If we want to make sure that the vote is what the law states, then it has to be 5 votes quorum. If there are concerns, we had one meeting that we did not have a vice chair, and we tabled it for the next meeting.
No, but we don't have, technically, this is what I'm saying to you. Technically, for the last 11 months, we have not had a vice chair. If the vote that was taken did not, it was not an official, it did not count, we do not have a vice chair. So if to be in compliance and to conduct business officially, we must have a vice chair.
Absolutely.
Then we need to move on that sooner rather than later, because everything we're doing is just going through motions. None of this, if you're saying that compliance, in order for us to conduct official business, we must have, by the laws of the state of New York, a vice chair, and we do not legally have a vice chair, all of what we've done is not official.
For naught.
Is for naught. That's what I need to understand. I don't know what you're saying when you say
So
not compliant.
I think that we should take a vote, because I don't think that I think that we should have our vice chair present, but I'm one of 9. And so if we should make a vote for a motion if we should carry the vote out. But my recommendation to this body is that we call a special meeting to vote for the chair, the same way we did back in July.
Chair Hawkins?
Yes, I just want to make sure that Commissioner Hamilton gets to speak.
Okay.
He's going to yield the floor to you, Commissioner Brown Robinson.
I just have serious concerns because we've conducted business, and the way I hear it, the way I see it, is that we're not in compliance. And I respect, that we have a chair, but if it means that none of these things that we have done from the beginning are not, since we're not in compliance, then what we have done for the last however many months, weeks, hours, days,
That is not
if
what
we're not
OGS
in
said.
compliance,
That is
then
not
we
what we
can't move forward. And if they told us we're not in compliance, we're not in compliance. So taking further votes and
They
having
did
further
not tell us that
business-
we're not in compliance. That has been our language. So I just want to be clear. No one said we're not in compliance. We just said that we need to do the vote again. We are in compliance. We are operated in accordance with New York State law. We've been working closely with OGS. I just want to make sure that we understand that we need to do the vote again. We are in compliance. Everything that we've done has been in order. That is why we meet with them. We meet with them every Friday to make sure that we're operating. These are things that have come to our attention because we wanted to make sure that we can continue to advance the work. So the
Why are
vote
they
would
just now
allow
telling us
us.
this? So why are they just now telling us this?
I think that
Respectfully, with regards to whatever meetings have been held, OGS was present at said meeting where there was a vote for a position that has been constitutionally required to be a part of this commission for it to function. Respectfully, and again, this is, I want us to come away from an idea that this is about any individual person. Respectfully, in all of those meetings, did OGS determine that it was significant enough to discuss the fact that we had a vice chair that had not been duly authorized with the appropriate voting mandate?
as I said, and I want to make room for Commissioner Hamilton, we were not told that we were not in compliance. Commissioner Hamilton.
I mean, sometimes maybe we should take a step back and remind ourselves of the monumental task that we have before us and the great opportunity associated with that monumental task. The issue of this particular thing that we're considering of necessary 5 votes, and we did not have 5 votes, let's put into context. That's something that a mistake was made, and it can be corrected. Right now, it seems like we're considering the timeliness of whether we need to correct it right now, or others have put forth the idea that maybe we should yield and correct it at another time. As to whether that delegitimizes everything we did, no, it does not. Those things happened, and I very seriously doubt that us being out of order on that vote, but done in good faith, disqualifies everything that we had done to date. But just to put a button on it, just remind ourselves of everything else that we have to do, and to put that in context of this particular issue that we're discussing right now.
So I just want to, again, for the record, I respectfully agree with what you're saying, Commissioner Hamilton. But it is my responsibility as a commissioner, when I'm told that we are not in compliance, to ask the critical question. If someone says that we are not in compliance because we are to have a vice chair, and we have technically not had a vice chair, I think it is prudent to ask the question, what exactly does that mean? And does that mean that the work that we have done to date is not official? That's all I'm asking. I'm not opining on when we take a vote or when we don't. I just want to know, because that is something that at a later point in time, if you sit publicly and you say we're not in compliance because we don't legally, technically have a vice chair, it's just what is the role of a vice chair? And if it's something that we are to have to conduct business officially, and we keep hearing we're not in compliance.
No one told us we're not in compliance.
Okay, but that was just a term that was used here in the room. So I think it is okay. It is okay for me to have asked the question to confirm that not having an official vice chair does not mean that the work of the commission for the last 11 plus months, 12 months, has not is now not considered moot, and null and void. It is legitimate to ask that question for the record. And so if it is okay for us to have conducted business without an official legal vice chair, then we could go another month and have a special vote. I'm asking the question.
So I want to answer your question. I want to answer it again for everyone, that we are not, no one said that we are not in compliance, just said that we need to do the vote again. So I want to be clear that we are in compliance. Our work is not mute. We need to do the vote again. That's it. We can decide to do the vote again today, which I suggest that we do not, or we can do the vote at a special meeting. Okay.
Are we going to
Do we need to take a vote? Do we need to take a vote, or we are okay with doing it at another meeting?
I'm okay with doing it at another meeting.
Should
I
we-
think we have too many questions that
Absolutely.
we need answered, because it may come down to terms. As Jennifer said,
Yes.
people may not want to go another 18 months. So this is an opportunity to really find out exactly what the rules are and to comply.
Absolutely. We always want to operate. It is our goal as a commission to operate in full compliance with the law. And so we're bringing this up as a point of awareness so that we can know what our action steps are and what we need to do. And so if there's agreement that we will call a special meeting for the commission to vote on the vice chair. In addition, at that meeting, we will present all of our public hearings for the next year so that we can make sure that those meetings are established.
The one part I'll say is we do have a good number of commissioners here today, and I'm happy to go forward with the vote. But if the general sentiment is to wait, I'm also fine with that. But I do know that when we took the original vote, unfortunately, I wasn't there, so it does happen. But if just putting it out there, if there are others that share my sentiment, I'm happy to go forward with the vote right now, too.
So I am not in favor of going forth with a vote right now. I think in light of the fact that we are for the first time discussing this public, I think we should ruminate a bit. I know it's going to add time, but I think the questions that were raised, because it's not just about the auspiciousness of the work that we're doing. While it is a phenomenal task that we have been called to, it is also about ensuring that we are legally protecting to the best of our ability the work. And we don't want to be in a situation where because of an oversight, obviously this was no one's intention,
Right.
but because of an oversight, if there is, just thinking as an attorney, if I'm on the opposite side, if I'm speaking for people who do not want to see the work of this commission done, and it is something that could, and we don't know because we have questions and we'll wait to see what the determination of OGS is, but the last thing we would want would be to leave ourselves with a bullseye on our back because we did not properly take basic procedures just to ensure that the work that we're doing is protected. Because in the worst case scenario, if it is not, that also has implications for every single thing we have voted on up until this point. It has implications for decisions that were made by the executive body. It has implications for the entirety of the work. And while I know that we have a time sensitivity here, we also want to make sure that we don't end up sacrificing the forms of protection that we are also required to consider for the sake of moving more quickly. The questions that are raised, I think, are serious. And we need to have answers to them before we decide what an election looks like, because it may be that other people want to run. It may be that no one else wants to run. It may be that people who are currently in positions no longer want to hold them. It may be that you are not allowed to hold them because you were only elected for an initial term. What we don't want is to continue doing substantive work in a way that does not respect the legal process and the fact that people who do not want to see this work implemented in any way, shape, or form will find the process holes and use them and exploit them in a way to undermine the legitimacy of the entire project.
Commissioner Daniel Favors, you make a persuasive case. I'm happy to withdraw my suggestion that we consider voting now and table it.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel
Thank you.
Favors. With that, we will entertain the motion. There was a motion on the table.
Yes, there's a motion to go into executive session.
I second.
Oh, the reason our parliamentarian reminds us that we have to have a reason for going into executive session, and that reason you can.
The reason is to discuss administrative issues.
Personnel matters, yes.
Personnel matters.
So we have the motion moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? With that, we will go into executive session. We will ask the public, we will ask our, any media to please leave, and we will go into executive session. Thank you.
Are we staying on this link?
You're going
We are now coming out of executive session, and we're calling our business meeting back to order. With that, we want to explain the reason for our executive session, but before we do that, we understand there's been some discussion as to what took place yesterday. Unfortunately, this library is in a flood zone, and so the library, it was a decision by the library for, it had to close at 4 o'clock. All libraries in the area had to close, and so we were not allowed to remain in the library and to hold our public hearing. So we do apologize for that. Our intention is to figure out how we can reschedule a public hearing here in the Brooklyn area. So once again, we apologize for that. It was events beyond our control that canceled our meeting. So I want to be clear that the commission did not cancel the meeting, but the space that we were in did not allow for us to continue with that meeting. Our executive session, we went to executive session, for those of you that weren't around, to discuss some personnel and administrative matters, and we have completed our work with that. And so with that, I will give commissioners the ability for any closing remarks that they want to make, and we have to get out of here because it is 1:03.
Does anyone have any closing remarks? If not, I would like to have a motion to end the business meeting.
Second,
So,
all in favor?
all in favor? Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you for coming.